Hello, my name is Minister Hillary. In this new age of progressive pastors, Christians have seen the rise of abuse and misuse of this office. As the most important and influential position in the local church, there is a rise in the need for more accountability from pastors, but also from the church. As leaders in the church, it is our responsibility to not let this misuse of authority go unchecked from either side of the table. Based on my research of Pastoral Authority, I will present the necessary information to help establish some guidelines for the pastors, but also for the church. Authority is given by God to the pastor, and it must be respected, but it must not be abused. During the minutes that follow, I will tell you how to help your pastor with this great task, and therefore help him become a greater and more respected leader. I will also show you some areas that have ensnared the cabinet of leadership in today's churches. Let's now begin with a few issues that have plagued the pastoral office and therefore diminished its authority. One main issue in today's church is its role. Many churches today have become less concerned with winning souls for Christ and more concerned with their marketability. Churches are now seen as entertainment centers. This has somehow lessened the need for true pastors and increased the need for an artist or an entertainer. Pastor Zekley writes in his article about Pastoral Authority that the office has been corrupted by hirelings and not men who have been called by God to preach. These men are motivated by potential incomes and not about teaching and reaching God's people. They will resign from a church for an increase of a salary or the pursuit of a larger ministry. These men of God then leave the church believing that this was a God-ordained move when it was not. David Houston wrote in his article, The Limits of Pastoral Authority, something that I believe to be the greatest issue, and that is the issue of control. Pastors now feel as though they have the authority to tell someone when to buy a car, when to get married. But this is beyond their scope of authority. It is indeed the job of a pastor to shepherd the flock, but not to lord over them. Let's now take a quick look at some issues that have plagued today's church and has also diminished the pastoral office. The chain of command in today's churches has changed. Deacons or trustee boards have now taken the leadership role instead of the pastor. This stems from churches going without a pastor too long when one departs. And during this transition period, the board takes authority but does not relinquish it when the pastor is put back into place. Pastors are changed or replaced too frequently. They have been released from their positions because they have not bent to the desires of the people concerning what to preach or what not to preach. Finally, let's look at the biblical standpoint concerning pastoral authority, but also the place of the church. A God-called pastor or leader has been given the task of feeding God's people. 1 Peter 5:2 says, Feed the flock of God which is among you, taking the oversight thereof, not by constraint, but willingly, not for filthy lucre, but of a ready mind. Feeding the flock is feeding the people what God gives that pastor or that preacher to say, not what the people decide for him or her to preach. The pastor must have restraint concerning money. He cannot base his tenure at a church solely on his income. God must be the decision maker concerning his stay or departure. And if he leaves, give the church a specific reason as to why the departure, and not just some spiritually sounding answer. The authority of the pastor must be respected. Deacons and trustees must learn to submit the authority they have been allowed to utilize in the absence of a pastor. Hebrews 13:17 says, Obey those who have rule over you and be submissive, for they watch out for your souls. As you can see, the issue of authority in today's church poses many issues, but the fact remains. Leadership is ordained and necessary to successfully manage God's people. Authority is given by God to a pastor, and it must be respected, but it cannot be abused. The office of the pastor is plagued with authority issues as well as some authority structures of the church. The biblical standpoint remains the same. God placed the authority in the hands of the pastor, not the board. We must remember that if you can place a reason for your decision about authority on anything other than saving souls, you are dealing with your flesh when it is a spiritual issue. God bless you.